Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Oops, I just accidentally pushed fudge oval by moving my feet around under the table. You snuck up on me, young pussycat. Okay, today's video is working on the October design for the lovely Susanna's calendar project. And it's a squirrel. And if you've been with me for a little while, you would know that the critters have been made into panels that will become a vessel or a Japanese rice bag with a bit of a twist on the construction of it. I've made a few of them in the past and I've got them here just to show those who are new and will have heaps of questions. But for those of you who've been around a while, grab yourself a coffee. It's time to do another critter. So this little guy is completed and embellished, ready to become a side. Here's the little bunny and the rabbit. Now, one of these was going to be technically a galah, but I'm not a fan of galahs, and this is a real critters project. So the galah got replaced with one of these. I think it was this guy, the little fella, the baby hare. So the plan today is we need one more side and our vessel is ready, and the little squirrel is perfect. Before we get started on getting the image onto my piece, this is what we're making. So technically it started as let's make a Japanese rice bag, probably a year and a half ago. And I modified it to the point where I have scrappy sides, where it's secured together, each side. I have embellished each side in this scenario. Let me just zoom up a little bit. In this scenario, I road tested a heap of quilting techniques by hand and embellished accordingly. So I then, when I constructed it, put the tabs in place, which you would see on a Japanese rice bag. There is a lining in there, which is the same fabric that I'm using here and is under all these sides. It's like a heavy grade calico that I picked up at the sewing lair. I've cut up every bit of it I had into these squares, which produced these 3 bags and the 4th bag. I'll talk about the lining of this bag in a moment. But yeah, so I also put in the cordage that you would imagine to go into a Japanese rice bag. I don't know why that peg's there, but anyway. So you can pull it tight. But because it's quite stiff due to all of the embellishing, it's become more of a vessel than a bag as such. But the cords are there. If I ever need to draw it close to take it somewhere, it still can be. And I love it. I absolutely love it. This one holds all scraps of planes. This one holds the remnants, well, not that, and that should be there. These are all the scrappy bits left from my trip to Paris. Gosh, I haven't dipped in here for a little while. These are like absolute treasures. So when I have a special project that I want to do, this is where I go to get some little morsels. I have probably 3 other big pieces of fabric in the cupboard where I got some yardage or meterage, but this was just bits. So very special little vessel, this one. And then I selected 4 pieces of the fabrics and thread painted, embellished to create my sides. And there's some artwork that was on that piece of fabric. This was a sleeve, a cuff. So that got stitched in. And then this one here, I do have some meterage of, but it's so fine, like it's old. And even though I was in France on a shopping textile tour, the lady that I bought most of my fabrics from, because she was just so accommodating and it just stopped me walking aimlessly through a massive antique market. And she could speak pretty good English. Some of the fabrics were from Holland. And by the time I got home, I didn't know what I had where. So little things like this, when I see these designs pop up in reproductions, they often are Holland and France. So excuse my ignorance if you recognise something and go, oh no girl, that's actually from wherever. I got a big piece of this upholstery fabric, absolutely beautiful. and that was a lace that I laid over it, and I got a little bit of that. So yeah, that's vessel number 2. And then I've got a few Japanese fabrics and scraps and cottons, and whenever I feel like doing a bit of sashiko stitching or something inspired by Japanese fabrics, I thought, well, I need a vessel that can hold all of those goodies. So once again, created the 4 independent sides. That one there is a stencil that I sketched the design of the dragonflies on and then stitched it. Same with that one. Oh, the dust. I've got to clean my shelf. There's a little bit of dust starting to build up. Time for a spring clean. So yeah, and they all have the tabs, they all have the ropes, so they can be drawn in to become this, you know, stylized Japanese rice bag inspired project that just keeps on giving. And that then led me to this project. So this one will be very soon able to be stitched together once I finish Mr. Squirrel. So that's where we're heading with all of this. Now, the lining in those previous 3 was made out of this heavyweight calico canvasy fabric that I picked up secondhand. Now, the last 4 pieces would make the lining, but it's been pilfered to make potentially another bag one day. I just couldn't sew it into the lining and it'd be forever gone because it's just such a great surface to stitch on. So I went to my cupboard and I picked out a fabric that I used in a quilt, mid-90s, that I had a little bit of meterage left, and I made myself using the same size squares, stitching it together in the style of making a Japanese rice bag. There's so many videos out there, and if you go to my playlist, you'll see me talking through the actual steps of doing this. I won't go through it today, but 5 sides makes the lining. These will be hand stitched onto the lining by putting them firstly together, you know, as a surround. He's upside down. I'll need to do a base to go on here that's in the style of the exterior. And then once my box is completed, as you will see here, see there's that squirrel will be there, and I'll put a base in the bottom. This then slides in and it gets stitched around the top at the same time, catching those little tabs, which then allows you to put, you know, your cordage through. I'll go through all that again in another video. So I thought I'll just show you where we're heading with this, because we've had a few new subscribers and I get these questions and you sort of assume that you've been with me a little while and you're like, no, hang on, that's someone who's just stumbled into our world of sewing. And yeah, of course, you have plenty of questions. So anyway, what I want to do today for this project is to get Mr. Squirrel onto here. The others I've sketched just by looking at the design, but I really love what Susanna's done with his styling here, so I don't really want to lose it. Now, being this is quite thick, I can just see him. Some of these I did do it this way just by tracing him through, but they were quite simplistic designs. This guy's a little bit more. So what I thought I'd do is I dug out some stencil paper. Now this I picked up, oh goodness knows, ages ago. I'm sure I bought it online when we were all in lockdown, because I was watching some Japanese styles of stitching and transferring patterns was using this paper, and I'd never seen it before, and I thought, oh, that's something new. So I got myself a sheets, and they're all different colours, and it's like a chalky substance on there. I sort of remember seeing something similar in Grandma's stash of tricks when she was wedding dress making, like putting darts onto things. There was like this carbon paper that she'd pull out to draw in a dart. So I sort of felt like I had seen this, but I hadn't played with it myself. So I thought, yep, we're going to use it this time. And I believe you can use it. You'll get so many, you know, goes out of it that it'll last me a lifetime. And of course you can pick a colour to suit your fabrics. I'm sure I saw a carbon style paper in Grandma's sewing room. Okay, so height-wise, we got plenty of room. I thought I might have to reduce him when I was thinking about the project and getting started on it. But I think he's going to fit in just nicely. Now I want to leave a little bit of space around him so that I can use, you know, all of these laces and bits and scrappy bits to trim in around him to create his foliage, if you will. I might just bring him a little off centre. I like things to be a little bit out of centre. So my theory is, using this stylus, which has a nib on the end, I should be able to apply pressure to all of these lines. And hey presto, it should appear. If it doesn't, I'm going to look like a real goose. Nope, there it is. I don't know if you can see it. Let me zoom in for a sec before I get going on this. See the pink lines? There you go. It's in. And because it's a chalk-based product, that'll just brush off the more I, you know, pull my needle through and thread as I stitch it. So that's the plan. I'm going to attempt to logically work my way around this little guy. I did grab a pen out because then you would see where you've been. Maybe I'll do his hip in the pen and I'll see, oh, that's a shocking line. I'll see if I get a similar line, which is better, the pen or the stylist. Oh, either. So there you go. I might use the pen. It's rolling a little bit better than the stylus. Like there's a little round nib on the end there, but this pen feels a lot more secure. So let's get this little guy drawn in. So I've done his back, done his hip. It really is just a case of following your lines, but try and do it logically so that you don't skip any bits. So working on his little lunch snack there, his little nut. Let's have a check. Have we got a squirrel coming? Yes, we do. Some little whiskers. Now we're working up his face. I figured he was so darn cute and looked great. I thought, well, why reinvent the wheel and sketch for 10 minutes trying to reproduce it when I can just use his little outline and get some stitches down. And I remembered I had this paper and I thought, you know, make it easy on yourself, girl. I'll always have him as a reference anyway, so if handling the fabric, you know, bumps off some of these little chalky lines, I'm not too concerned. And to be honest, I could probably even go over it with my heat erasable pen and I'd be still pretty happy. I'll draw that foot in. I think it'll be covered, but it is rather cute. So I might end up stitching it anyway just to have it peeking through some lace. All right, let's get this little tail. Like, how quick is this? Instead of reinventing said squirrel. I probably will go over it with my pen. I'm a little concerned that the chalk might disappear and I'll lose the gorgeous shapes that Susanna's captured sketching this little fellow up. October. Goodness, the calendar project is coming to an end as well. Goodness me. All these projects we think of at the beginning of the year, and then before you know it, I think that's it. I think we got him. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go over this because there's areas here that's a little bit faint for my liking. And as I get my big mitt in there and, you know, stitch and drag my cottons through, I just don't want to lose anything of him. So we'll just put a little more. Maybe if I pick the blue, it might have been a stronger colour to appear on the cream. So upon reflection, that may have been a better colour. I know now that I've got his basic shape, there'll be a bit of artistic styling happening. It always happens. But this is good. This has got him sorted. Won't be a real long video today, guys. As you know, I'm busy with the retreat. So this video, I will be in Ipswich with the girls. No, I won't be. That was last week. I will be back in Hervey Bay. My road trip will be coming to an end. So there we go. So I am filming this in advance, as you can imagine. It's good to know these projects are sort of moving along too, because we've been so committed to them through the year, and then, you know, life kicks in or planned events, and would have been a shame to see the last few months really slow down due to my social activities. We can't have that. And for a load off my mind, it's just nice to know that these will be done and the videos will just pop out. Let's get that eye in. Eyes are the trickiest, but once you get them, it really makes a difference. It's suddenly, you know, there's a squirrel looking at you. Nice big doughy eyes. They look a bit mean at the moment, but once I get my stitches in, it'll be right. Okay, we've got a few whiskers, we've got a tail, we've got his bottom. That's pretty good. He does look like a mean squirrel. I remember seeing my first squirrel. I was on a guided tour. I probably told you this story. I shouldn't repeat it because it's actually a bit embarrassing. I was on a guided tour and we were in London and we were walking through the grounds. Now, what was it? The Abbey. It wasn't Westminster Abbey. It was a cathedral, I think. It was where Lady Di and Charles got married. Oh, I've gone blank. Anyway, we're coming around the side. The bus has dropped us off. We're coming around the side of the building and I spot a squirrel on the grass. First one. We'd been there 2 days. So it was like very exciting. And I've just veered off slightly to try and get a photo. Of course, he took off. I took off after him. And by the time I tracked him down and he was sitting on a branch and I got my photo, I turned around, the whole group was gone. I was like, oh my goodness, I've lost them all. But I knew they were going into the Abbey, so I've shot off the direction I thought they were going. Of course, it wasn't. I ended up having to do a lap and around and finally got up the stairs into the Abbey, and here's our group along with heaps of groups. And, oh my goodness, I just slipped back into the group. Gaz has looked at me to go, what happened? Where did you get to? Because by then he'd realised that I'm missing. And I said, squirrel. And he's just rolled his eyes and going, oh my goodness, girl. So, yeah, I have a squirrel story. Anyway, what I want to quickly do is just invisible stitch these layers together. Then I don't have to worry about the background fabric, which is just like a felt from the local fabric store. Everything is sort of going to stay together. Then I need to grab my threads, which of course aren't on the table. They're sitting on a bench to the side of me, and match up what I used in those other pieces, which I'm thinking was like a charcoal and then some flesh tone pieces. But anyway, we'll work that out. So I will then need to stitch him like those guys. Let me zoom up a little bit. And then once he's stitched, I can come back and we can piece lace around the perimeter of the little guy. At the moment, it is all about just getting him stitched, which shouldn't take me too long. That extra felt, it's just giving it a little bit of rigidity. This fabric that I'm sketching and stitching onto is pretty heavy duty. It's definitely in the canvas category. I haven't yet tracked down anywhere where it's similar that I've found for sale, but mind you, I haven't looked because I got a metre or so of it, and you know, I've been happily stitching into it for probably 18 months now. So, but there's going to come a day real soon that if I want to make some more vessels, I will need to go looking for more of a heavy duty calico. It's to enable the sides to stand up. I'm not too worried that that's all out of skew width there. I'll just trim that excess off when it comes time to stitching, you know, all of these elements together. So that's what I'll be doing this afternoon, stitching my little squirrel. Cute little fellow he is. Now, I'm not sure about the rest of the images for the calendar project. I have to pull them out and have a little look and what I will do with them. So stay tuned. Who knows? For those of you who bought the kits at the very beginning that Susanna did, I'm sure you'll be very excited that you're coming to the end of a great project. That's not going to move. I've sort of got myself to a point where I need to move the knot that's holding my needle and thread. Oh, that's going to happen. Oh, that's good. I can whip up this side now with my little stitch, invisible stitch, as in tacking stitch is what we used to call it, except it has a tiny stitch at the top and the big stitch underneath. That's the only difference. It's tacking down layers in order to get rid of pins. That's all invisible stitch is. How can I get asked that question fairly regularly? And I sort of take for granted that we use all these words, especially when they're new trend words that have popped up to best describe something we're doing. And invisible stitch is sort of one of those, I believe. It just appeared out of nowhere. It's a tacking stitch. It's just the best way to describe it to you guys is that there's no stitch showing that the word invisible came to play. So I believe that's how it came to be. I'm just going to jump up and grab my container of thread. So hang in there for a second. Won't be a moment. Okay, here they are. So I'm looking for that real steely grey, but it's not black. That was the outline of this little guy. And I know I had to buy more because the project had munched through a heap of it. I think it's this. I remember that number, 3799, being in my notes on my phone, that if I was in Spotlight, grab another skein. I think that was it. Then as for the trimmings on him, not that he has many, maybe a little beige here and there. He's certainly not very beigey. Might bring that in just as a little detail. And I might bring in a little bit of this pale one. We'll leave it at that for Mr. Squirrel. That's heaps. This gets out of hand. Let me put this away too. So yeah, that sheet can be used again and again and again, they tell us on YouTube videos. I can't remember where I got it, guys. I believe it was one of the sellers of Japanese sashiko supplies, and there's a few around on the internet. It just seems to be very much part of their, see, marking of pleats, tucks and darts. I am positive this was on my grandmother's dressmaking desk in the day. All right, so we need ourselves a nice needle, probably a milliner's needle. Takes the thread long and thin, won't provide too much friction against my fingers. Yeah, I think that's the one. Now, how many threads did I use to stitch those other little fellows? See if I can work it out. I think it'd be 2. Yeah, 2. Nice and fine. So that's pretty much the plan, is to get this little chap stitched. And I think, if I remember rightly, there are, I'm just grabbing my diary here, there are 2 October Mondays left. So the 28th is still in October. So, oh, that's pretty good. I will come back once I stitch this. I'll probably do it this evening, stitch it, and then I will come back and we can do the lacy bits, get that stitched down. And yeah, that's good. So there's 5 Mondays. So I've got Botanical Beauties done for the month, and this little fellow. So the stitch, if I recall, is just a split back stitch. It's my go-to stitch. It's where you pierce the halfway through. Let me zoom in for all the newbies. It's a great outline stitch. You pierce the stitch prior with your needle, and it helps disguise the entry point of your needle and thread, so you don't get like holes. You'd imagine a needle this thick, which isn't even that thick. If you just did a straight in and out each hole, you would see your holes. So a split back stitch is a really good way of cruising along and not leaving a footprint behind you of where your stitch is. So when the eye looks at your piece, it looks like you've literally sketched it because it's a nice continual line. So that should be pretty straightforward. I feel like a chalky residue on my fingers. I just had a feeling it might come off. So I'll apply a damp cloth, should get it off, and then I'll put some heat on to get the pen off. So that's the plan for today. I'm looking forward to putting a movie on. I'm doing a bit of stitching. Probably won't put a movie on. I'll end up just watching some fellow YouTubers, catch up on what they're up to. Just becomes part of my day now. I haven't watched a good movie for a little while because there's plenty of YouTubers doing projects and chatting away, so it's lovely just to hear their voices and see how their projects are progressing. It's a lot of fun. Got a couple I need to catch up on too. So there you go. Squirrel is underway. I'll just finish this thread off, then I might dodge off, leave you guys alone and let you go and watch someone else. So not the usual hour-long video, but there's not a lot to do with this once you sort of get him in place. Maybe if I'd sketched him, I probably would have done 20 minutes of trying to get him right, but nah, he looks so darn cute. Okay, that's enough. Like, there's a tiny bit of thread left. Why struggle? You don't need to be miserly, girl. Give yourself a little extra. There we go. Done, done, done. So I shall say goodbye. Put my needle in there. I'm going to need those. And yeah, off we go to stitch myself a little squirrel. Still looks mean. Let's see if I can fix that. He needs soft, doughy eyes. But anyway, we'll see how he goes. Maybe he's a mean squirrel. Probably because some goose is chasing him through the park trying to get a photo. And all he wants to do is sit and eat his little nut there. All right, guys, look after yourselves. Have a lovely day. Have a good week. And I'll see you when I see you. Bye.